Have you ever wondered where things like the right to vote, or freedom of speech, or even the idea that you can question your leaders came from? Well, a lot of it traces back to one single, absolutely explosive period in history. We're talking about the Enlightenment. This is the story of how we as a species decided to stop just accepting the world as it was and started using reason to build the world we actually live in today.
And this, right here, is the core battle of the entire era. On one side, you have this ancient, powerful belief. Kings are chosen by God, and their power is absolute, period. But on the other side, you get this radical, dangerous new idea that power actually comes from the people, that government serves us. This single shift, my goodness, this shift from divine right to human consent was about to topple empires.
So, to really feel the shockwave of this new thinking, we've got to step back in time. We need to go into the world it completely shattered. Try to imagine a world where one person's word was literally law, where their power was seen as total and handed down from God himself.
And nobody embodied this more than Francis Louis XIV, the famous Sun King. From his ridiculously lavish palace of Versailles, he wasn't just the ruler. In his mind, he was the state. The entire nation was meant to orbit around him, just like the planets orbit the sun.
So what was the software running his whole system? It was this idea, the divine right of kings. And it's a brilliant, incredibly powerful concept. It meant a king answered to no one on earth, not a parliament, not his advisors, and certainly not the people. Only God. So to challenge the king, well, that wasn't just treason, it was basically blasphemy.
But then, something started to shift. A new way of thinking began to bubble up, and it was sparked by a revolution, not in politics, but in science. This was the beginning of the Age of Reason.
You see, you had these brilliant minds like Copernicus and Newton who had used reason and observation to figure out the laws of the universe. So a new generation of thinkers took that same intellectual toolkit and turned it away from the stars and pointed it right at society. They started looking at government not as some sacred, unchangeable thing, but more like a machine that could be taken apart, understood, and hopefully rebuilt to work a whole lot better.
And this led them to ask the single most dangerous, and you could say most powerful question of the age, the one you see right here. If reason can map the heavens and predict the movement of planets, why on earth can't we use it to build a better, more just, more logical society right here? This question was a direct assault on centuries of tradition. Answering that question unlocked an incredible toolkit of new ideas, really powerful concepts that gave people the blueprints for a totally new kind of government, one built on the idea of rights, not just top-down rules.
And a key figure here is the English philosopher John Locke. He laid out this devastatingly simple logic. Okay, step one. We are all born with what he called natural rights, the right to life, liberty, and property. They're ours from birth. Step two. We, the people, create governments for one reason and one reason only, to protect those rights. And that, of course, leads to the explosive conclusion, step three. If a government stops doing its job, or even worse, starts taking away our rights, then the people have the right to get rid of it. Now, the champions of these ideas were known as the philosophes, which is just French for philosophers, and they were especially active in France. But these folks weren't just academics hiding in a university. They were writers, critics, and reformers on a mission to use reason to make the world a better place for everybody.
One of the most famous, you probably heard of him, was Voltaire. He was just a fierce critic of intolerance and superstition, and he championed maybe more than anything else, freedom of speech. He knew that for society to get any better, people had to be free to question everything without being afraid.
Then you have Montesquieu, who is obsessed with one big problem. How do you stop power from corrupting people? And his solution was ingenious. The separation of powers. Don't put all the power in one basket. Split it up between different branches of government. One that makes laws, one that enforces them, and one that judges them. Let them check each other. It's a design specifically created to prevent tyranny.
Okay, so were these just fancy ideas for people to talk about in Parisian coffee shops? Not a chance. These concepts were about to get a real-world test drive, starting with a political earthquake over in England.
And this was the Glorious Revolution. See, King James II started acting a little too much like an absolute monarch for Parliament's taste. So they didn't just write angry letters, they basically fired him. They invited a new king and queen, William and Mary, to come take the throne, but there was a catch. They had to sign a contract first, and that contract was the English Bill of Rights.
The end result was a brand new system,
a constitutional monarchy. This is huge, because for the first time, a monarch's power was officially and legally limited by a set of laws. Parliament now held real power. The law, finally, was more powerful than the king.
So this revolution in England proved these ideas could actually work in the real world, and the new mission became to spread these ideas as far and as wide as possible. The philosophers totally understood that knowledge itself is a form of power.
And maybe the ultimate weapon in this fight was Diderot's encyclopedia. Now, this was so much more than a set of books. It was an act of rebellion. The goal was to collect all of human knowledge about science, art, government, everything, and put it directly into the hands of the people. By democratizing information, it was a direct challenge to the authority of the church and the monarchy.
And these ideas did not stay in Europe. No way! They sailed right across the Atlantic, where they found really fertile ground in people like Benjamin Franklin. I mean, Franklin was basically the American Enlightenment all rolled into one man, a scientist, an inventor, a diplomat, a guy who just used reason to try and improve everything he touched, from science to society itself.
So why does all of this history, from over 300 years ago, still matter so much to us today? Well, it's because the world we live in right now was built on the foundation that was laid back then during the Enlightenment. The impact was just monumental. The ideas of thinkers like Locke and Montesquieu directly inspired the American Revolution and its Declaration of Independence. Those same ideas helped fuel the French Revolution just a few years later, and ultimately, they provided the core principles for pretty much every modern democracy on the planet today.
So I'll leave you with a question to think about. The next time you vote, or you voice your opinion online, or even just read about a court case, take a second to remember where those rights and systems came from. How do these ideas forged in debate over 3 centuries ago still define the world that you and I live in every single day?
So if we boil it all down, the Enlightenment's inheritance can really be distilled into 3 incredibly powerful principles. Number 1, reason is our best tool for making things better. Number 2, the whole point of government is to protect our rights. And number 3, nobody, not a king, not a president, nobody is above the law. These aren't just ideas from a history book. They are the very foundations we are still building on and, honestly, still fighting for today.